Now this is from HiDock, and they were nice enough to send this out for me to test and review. What this is an 11-in-1 dock. Now, this dock has some special features to it. For one, it has top-end features that you would expect from a high-end docking station for your laptop, both PC and Mac. So, for starters, it has 2 HDMI ports that are both capable of 4K 60. It has a built-in speaker that has a 5-watt tweeter, a 7-watt basically a full spectrum driver, and a passive radiator basically for more bass. We'll get into that in a minute when we talk about the sound. It has power delivery for up to 100 watts for your laptop. So, I mean, these are high-end specs when you talk about a dock. It also has a card reader, both SD and micro. Most of the ports are 10 gigabyte 3.2 Gen 2 USB ports, USB-C, USB-A. But, okay, that's not it. The biggest thing about this is that it is a ChatGPT AI-enabled device. So what does that mean? It means it can automatically record your meetings, discussions, notes, anything that you want in any type of environment, whether it's just here in your home office working from home, personal setup, if you're on phone calls, if you're on online webinars, studying for tests or studying to learn something new, certifications, etc. It will record those things for you on the device, full-on recordings. And it can transcribe those devices, that information into much needed notes. I'll show you that in a second. I'll also talk to you about the security of that information. Is it secure? Where is it stored? What it is.
Yeah, well, they knew the system. Well, it literally did its job because it caught my attention quick. Because I saw Hogwarts Legacy and I'm like, oh, they're acquiring, and it's just the studio that ports them. So they're cutting out the middleman is what they're doing.
That's exactly what they're doing. I agree with you on that. Like the titles today for game, like, okay, let's just stay here for a second. Gaming media. But this is also the last, is it the last? I don't think it's the last feature. Another feature is that this is, they say, the first bi-directional noise canceling meeting device. So I think that works in like Zoom and stuff like that. But as far as like a standalone device, it can cancel out sound from your voice to the recipient, as well as the recipient's voice back to you. And you can do that manually with a slider that they have, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. So again, disclaimer, they sent this out to me for testing and reviewing, but as always, this is an honest and transparent review. So on the HiDock H1, you have a slider right here that has a red button. That's for noise cancellation. So up increases noise cancellation, and down, of course, decreases it. You have your accept or answer button, depending on if you're on a meeting and or a phone call. Then you have your end or reject button. Again, phone call or meeting. You have a mute button. When you click the mute button, you see that it turns red and turns back off when you undo that. And then you have your multifunction, that is your multifunction HiDock button. So basically holding that for a second and a half starts the recording process. And when you do that, you can see the blue light that lets you know that it is currently recording something. Now, if you hit that one time, it's going to change that into a section. So now we're in section 2, click it again. Now we're in section 3. When you're completely done, you hold that button like that for 1.5 seconds and it stops the recording. You also have right here your earphone, of course, and this earphone can be used in both directions. You can turn it, obviously not obviously. This way it is selected for my left ear because the earpiece is facing this way. I can spin that this way like that, and now I can put it into my right ear. And so that way you can use it on the side that is most comfortable for you. And it switches automatically between the speaker to the earphone. When you pick that up, it recognizes that it's picked up and switches over. And you can switch it back and forth by hitting the button on the earphone.
When you first told me your name, I didn't hear a word you said, but it was written all over my face.
The sound on this from a music standpoint, let's talk about music individually of its speaking. The sound is surprising. It's not quite forward, but it is very characteristic sound. It's an interesting mix that they have here because there's good bass and there's clean and clear highs, and it's slightly muddy, meaning that it has some characteristic. It's a little more than punchy, but it's not distorted. If this was a minimal setup, this would be good by itself without having to have other speakers. So is your information safe when using the HiDock H1? So for starters, all recordings are kept solely on the device. So anything you record, whether it's a phone call, meeting, whatever, chat session, whatever it is, it's stored directly on the device. However, if you were to upload it for transcribe into the HiNotes application, web application, that is stored through Microsoft Azure security processes, basically. So it's an SSL front end, end-to-end encryption. The information is encrypted going to the Microsoft Azure servers and database, and then it's encrypted as well coming back to you. It's only on your device unless you upload it. And it does not automatically connect to the internet, and it does not automatically record. You have to hold down the HiDock button, the multifunction button, for a second and a half in order for it to start recording, another second and a half for it to stop recording, etc. So you can't do it by accident. Your data is not used for training artificial intelligence or other, AI models.
Welcome to HiDock Bidirectional Noise Cancellation.
So now this is the recording here.
We will play audio with various background noises at any time. Let's start with an introduction to the HiDock brand with keyboard typing and construction noise. We believe that communication can solve 90% of problems. The communication devices of the future should natural as in.
And you can see in that demo as well that her voice becomes a little bit more computerized or digital when the noise canceling turns up. That's expected, but still, it sounds pretty good. Do I think it's worth it? I definitely think it's worth it. And the reason for that is not just that it has ChatGPT on it. It's the overall package. If you go and look at, the competitors like Avanki, if you go and look at Anchor, if you go and look at other solutions like this, like the Logitech, docking station, etc., this has better features than all of those, right? And your average docking station with this many inputs is going to be around $199 to $249, right? Maybe even $299 if you look at some of those Avanki top end ones. Now, the one thing, the caveat, or the things that I think are the hindrances or hesitations, is that it's capped at 4K 60. Now, for a productivity setup, typical working setup, it's not a problem at all, right? It's not a problem at all. In my setup, my main setup, I use an LG OLED that goes all the way up to 120 hertz, and so I'm not getting the full 120 hertz on that. And another 4K monitor that goes to 4K 60, that's a regular LCD panel. So that's all fine, from a productivity standpoint. But if I wanted to game using this, I would be capped at 4K 60 for gaming. You're not gonna get above 4K 60, but you are able to get dual 4K 60 monitors. If you enjoyed today's content and you want to see more content like it, consider subscribing and joining the Cozy Coalition below. And if you've been around here for a while, you know what I'm going to say next. As always, stay cozy in that crazy world, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.